Hi, I finally made it. Sorry for the delay. Thank you all for being here. Um, Technical difficulties. I had to switch browsers and yeah, login problems, but I'm here. So, welcome to my first live campaign meet and greet. I just wanted to take this opportunity to chat with some of you, hopefully hear what you're thinking about, what issues you're concerned about, and give you a chance to ask me questions about myself and my priorities. When I started running, I didn't think that I'd be campaigning this way, but due to COVID-19, some of the best ways to reach out to voters right now are through online chats and things like that. Hopefully, one day soon we'll be able to have some in person events where I'll get to interact with you more naturally than through the chat box. But um, welcome, welcome. Thank you all for being here. So, just to get started, I'm just going to give you a little bit of background about myself. Um, I'm originally from Massachusetts. I moved to Tennessee almost 20 years ago, about 18 years ago. I was enrolling in a PhD program at Vanderbilt. I, back when I was 8 years old, decided I wanted to be an archaeologist, and my whole college education led me to that point. And sorry, I'm looking at some of the reactions. I came to Vanderbilt because I specifically wanted to work in the anthropology department there, and it was a great program at the time for the area of research that I was interested in, which is Mesoamerican archaeology. In undergrad, I spent a semester abroad in Belize excavating an ancient Maya site, and so that's what I wanted to continue doing. So I was here for a while, studying and going to Guatemala in the spring and summer to do research. I excavated an ancient Maya palace at a site called La Sufracaya in Guatemala in the northern part of the country. We lived in tents in the jungle for 3 months at a time, and we had no running of water, no electricity. Well, we had a generator giving us electricity for like 2 hours every night so we could write up our research notes and look at our artifacts and things like that. And it was a great experience. I love Guatemala. I love the people there. It's a beautiful country. It made me, especially when I came back, appreciate the United States even more and all of the opportunities we have here. So once I finished my coursework, I started working for the state of Tennessee. Actually, I worked for a small agency called the Tennessee Foreign Language Institute back then. Now it's called the Tennessee Language Center. And I worked in the Interpretation and Translation Services Department. We provided interpreters, oral interpretation and written translation services for state agencies, the courts, hospitals, schools, because at the time, Tennessee and specifically Nashville was the second largest refugee resettlement city in the country. Many of you might know that we have, I think, the second largest Kurdish population here in the United States. And since then, even more people from all around the world have come to resettle and find a safe home here in Tennessee. Um, so I enjoyed working there. I learned more about some different cultures than I did while I was in graduate school, working for the state there. And I met my husband, Matt, who is a native Nashvilleian. He grew up in East Nashville, and we decided to put down roots. We, at the time, were living in Hickman County, which is out west towards Dixon and Centerville, almost towards the very western corner of Williamson County, actually. And we have 3 kids. Matt took them out for a walk right now, so you don't hear them screaming in the background because otherwise you'd hear shouting and all kinds of loud noises and that sort of thing. So they keep us on our toes. Jackson is 9, Tess is 6, and Nora's 4. And Jackson and Tess both go to Williamson County Public Schools. We moved to Williamson County 4 years ago, specifically for the schools, like many families do. And we settled in Spring Hill, and we really love our neighborhood and our community here. So we feel very fortunate. I've always been sort of a liberal thinker, a progressive thinker, and living in Tennessee sometimes is a bit of a culture shock. in 2016, after the election, I felt like I needed to do some more because when I first moved here, the politics were fairly moderate. Some extreme ideology. Like, for instance, when I started working for the state, the English only initiatives started up in Nashville in response to the number of refugees that were coming to the city, and thankfully those initiatives were defeated. But over the years, I've watched as our politics have shifted further and further right, and have been really trying to help special interests and the people who are in power rather than the rest of Tennesseans. So in 2016, I decided I needed to do some more. I was looking around. I started mentoring students through the Tennessee Achieves program, which they provide mentors to Tennessee Promise Scholarship students, which is a scholarship program that's funded through our lottery program, and it covers 2 full years of community college, cost tuition free. Hi, Sydney from Leapers Fork. Thanks for being here. And so we, as mentors, we just make sure that the students know where the deadlines are. They know how to apply for school, fill out their applications, fill out all the paperwork, register, that sort of thing, and just provide some moral support and guidance, because a lot of these students are the first of their families to go to school to seek out higher education. So I started with that, and then I realized I had to do even more. I couldn't decide, though, which cause I needed to dedicate my time to, or I had enough time to dedicate to. So I decided that the best thing would be to help get Democrats elected locally and on a statewide level. So I started volunteering with the Williamson County Democratic Party. I help with their communications committee, sending out their weekly emails, just trying to mobilize Democrats to get them more involved in paying attention to local politics, nonprofit events, community events, so that people can see that, Democrats are not, weirdos, and we're not devils, and we care about people, we care about our communities too. Sometimes I think there's a reputation down here in the South that Democrats are, godless or something like that, and actually we're your neighbors. So trying to dispel some of those myths. And then I just when Governor Lee was elected and he started pushing the voucher bills and the permitless carry bills, and setting these budgets that really don't speak to helping Tennesseans, I decided that someone else needed to step up. We need more balance in our state legislature. We need people who are going to raise their voices for the working class, for families, for moms, for teachers, for children, for the people who don't have a voice. So I thought, looking around, there's, no one was stepping up at the time, and I thought, why not me? It's not something I really planned on doing, being a mom of 3 kids with not a huge amount of time on my hands, but if no one else is going to do it, I should do it. And it's been a challenge. It's been daunting at times. I'm learning a lot. I've never, been involved in a campaign at this level before. I've volunteered through, canvassing and things like that, but I've never done anything like this. So I appreciate all of you being here and being willing to support me on this journey. And yeah, I'm looking at the comments saying, does anyone have any questions specifically for me about anything so far? Just kind of wondering. I've been thinking a lot about my background in anthropology, especially amongst these current events and all of the racial tensions that we're experiencing throughout our country. And I'm proud to see people raising their voices and being willing to, address this problem that is systemic in our society head on. As an anthropologist, which for many of you who might not know, it is the study of human cultures and how social structures influence and sort of dictate in some ways human behavior. So we look at the systems of life, the structures, the social structures of life that um, people may not recognize on a conscious level, but have to operate within, right? So um, the social inequities in our society I've been aware of for a long time because of my education in anthropology. Um, and frankly, anthropology, to some degree, as a field of study, is tied to some of these racial inequities we see because it evolved as a field of study. It evolved out of colonialism. The first people to really study other cultures were representatives of governments that were conquering and dominating other cultures. And as anthropologists and as specifically as archaeologists, a lot of the texts we use to learn about indigenous cultures were written by representatives of the majority cultures that conquered them. So, it hurts because I wanted to study archaeology and anthropology because I cared about learning about other people and traveling the world and experiencing different cultures. And it really, when I became more involved in the study of anthropology as a graduate student, it was hurtful to realize that the field that I had invested in and cared about was actually part of the problem and not. And luckily, we're trying now to be part of the solution. Our anthropologists have, for many generations, looked at our analyses, looked at our practices, and say, hey, this isn't the right thing to be doing. Early studies were based on delineating the differences between biological races, which is really a false construct. There's nothing that really is based in biology to discern race between people. But they would measure skulls, they would measure, skeletons to say this is the African race, this is the white race, and that sort of thing. And it was not productive. It didn't further our understanding about people, and it actually was harmful because it allowed justification for white supremacy in some cases. So we teach that now, though, as part of Introduction to Anthropology, and I think that's an important thing, and an important example for the rest of us, that we have to be willing to look at our own behaviors, being willing to look at our own pasts and the way we, maybe talk about things, and say, hey, that's probably not right. We need to do a little bit better, because once you know better, to paraphrase Maya Angelou, once you know better, you do better. And so, so I've been thinking a lot about the intersection between anthropology and race lately, and how we can learn from the way that anthropology has sort of tackled that problem too. Last week or 2 weeks ago, I think I was doing the Moms Demand in Every Town virtual town hall. They had several experts in law enforcement and safety training and community organizations talking about the permitless carry bill that was being proposed here in Tennessee, which, if you aren't aware of, it's one of Governor Lee's signature pieces of legislation. The Republicans call it constitutional carry, because they're trying to play up on the constitutional right to bear arms. But what this bill would do would allow anyone over the age of 18 or 21 to carry a gun in public without a permit, without requiring a permit, without requiring any training, and without requiring background checks, which to me just sounds like lunacy. But anyways, one of the volunteers, the Moms Demand volunteers from East Tennessee, had asked Jamel Campbell Gooch, who is the head of Gideon's Army in North Nashville, how we can reach out to other community groups and create alliances and forge, partnerships with other groups. And his main piece of advice, his primary piece of advice, was prepare to be uncomfortable, which really resonated with me. And I haven't been able to get that out of my mind because, it's hard to reach out. It's hard to reach out to other people that you don't know, to other groups that you don't know. You have to be willing to put yourself in a position of vulnerability. You also have to be willing to look at your motivations, look at your intentions, and look at your behaviors. So I think that piece of advice can be given to all of us right now. I think we can all take that in and think about, how we are or we aren't perpetuating some of these social inequities. And it takes a lot of strength. It takes a lot of humility to be willing to look at ourselves, to look at maybe the employers we work for, or the organizations we work for, or even our own family members, and think about where the social inequity is coming from. And so I think we have to be also patient and kind, and know that we are all in some way carrying pain with us, and just be graceful and reach out with empathy. And so I hope we can all do that. I admire the people who are going out protesting, even though I worry about their health in these times of COVID-19. I myself can't, as a mom, I don't feel safe and comfortable doing that myself, but I'm very, full of admiration for the people who are willing to put their bodies on the line for a cause they care about. If you're not, one thing we all have to be patient with each other about too is, not everyone, like I mentioned, is in a position to go out and protest. Not everyone is in a position to post things on Facebook, maybe because of their professional roles or something like that. We can't make assumptions about what people believe and think just because we don't see those public acts of, defiance. They might be quietly working in the background to provide solutions. We can all make donations to community organizations like Color for Change or Black Lives Matter. We can all shop at Black-owned businesses. And actually, if you're in Williamson County, the Williamson Herald is compiling a list, and they were putting that out on social media today about local Black-owned businesses that we can support during these times. And you can vote. You can vote for candidates who see the problems, want to face the problems, and work with other people, with other organizations to find solutions to those problems. You can donate to campaigns like mine and others who want to be part of the solution. So, as we try to find the solution, we all have to, like I said, be patient, be willing to be uncomfortable, be willing to find empathy, look for empathy, or use empathy to reach out to people. We're all imperfect humans, and the main way to approach this is to realize that, but to be willing to do the work to make it better. So that's sort of what I've been, weighing on my mind these days. I'm sure we're all very concerned about a lot of these issues too. If you all have suggestions for different community groups to become involved in, I'd love for you to put that in the comments so that everyone else can see them. Or, if you know of local stores and businesses and restaurants that you're supporting, I'd love to hear that too. Hi, Shoes. Hi, Mom. I see you there. Thank you. Hi, Christine. My sister's here too. My dad. So thank you all for being here. I see Carlos and Lily. So I just wanted to quickly touch on some of my campaign priorities. As a mom, I'm a stay-at-home mom. I made the decision to stay home after my second child was born, and I think, like a lot of families, a lot of women, it was a hard decision. It was, I didn't love my job, but I did like being part of a team. I liked working. I liked bringing home that money. But when I had to weigh, at the time we were living an hour outside of Nashville, it was an hour-long commute each way. My husband couldn't help with daycare and pick up and drop off because of his work schedule. And so it was going to be entirely on me to get two kids up, fed, to school, and right when I was starting to look into daycare to go back to work, the place that we had sent my son didn't have a spot for my daughter, and so that would mean I would have had to go to two separate possibly two separate places, which again were, not in our town, but in Nashville. So adding to the fact, and this might be, a little bit too much information, but I was I was pumping. I was intending to pump at work, and our offices had been renovated by the state. Governor Haslam had this huge initiative, and our new offices were just the front wall of it was just all windows and no blinds, just all windows. I guess if I had pushed for it, I could have had blinds installed, but the only private places to pump at work would have been the bathroom or the server room, which was, if you've ever been around a server, was very, very hot. So it just felt for me like it was, I wanted to be home with my kids too. I wanted to, have that time when they were young to be the mom, and take care of them. But I also felt like there were a lot of things stacked against me that felt overwhelming. And luckily, we were in a financial position to allow me to stay home. But, and I'm still primarily a stay-at-home mom. And we're getting by, but we're not getting ahead. We're not saving for retirement. We're not saving for college. We're just getting by. And I think a lot of families feel that way. Even in Williamson County, which has a reputation for being one of the wealthiest counties in Tennessee, in the area that I know of, Spring Hill, there are a lot of stay-at-home moms, but there's a lot of scrimping and saving and penny pinching too. And I just think that the state could be doing more to help working families in many different ways, starting with raising the minimum wage and fighting for a living wage for most people. They offer a lot of tax breaks to companies that come here. They could mandate that those companies pay a living wage. The government says, well, they're going to be creating all these jobs. Well, it doesn't really matter if the jobs that they're creating are only paying $7 an hour, because who can work on that? Who can live on that? A teenager maybe could live on that while they live with their parents, but a working family can't live on that. So that's, one issue. Expanding Medicaid would be a huge thing that would help every Tennessean, not just the people who need health insurance, but a lot of people don't realize this. But the states that have expanded Medicaid have studies have shown that private insurance costs go down as well, because once more people have insurance and are getting regular quality health care, the population as a whole becomes healthier, and the risk pools for insurance premium purposes are lowered. And so a lot of private insurers don't have to charge such high premiums. It saves businesses who are paying for employee plans money. It saves individuals money on the premiums that they're paying every month for their insurance. While the Republican government has refused to expand Medicaid over the past, at least 5 years, we've lost almost $1 billion a year in funding that is taxpayer funding that should be coming back to Tennesseans. And instead, the Tennessee GOP just says, okay, fine, you can keep it up there in Washington. We don't need your money. That money, in addition to ensuring almost 300,000 additional people, would be keeping our rural hospitals afloat. We've had almost, I think, 13 rural hospitals close. And in a state that's as geographically large as ours are, if there's not a hospital near you in your county and you have to travel 45 minutes when you are having a heart attack, that's a life and death situation right there. And so keeping those hospitals afloat would, it should be the main priority of our government, our state government. And those hospitals employ people. Those hospitals are also usually the bedrock of the economy in those counties. And so it's a huge decision that the Tennessee GOP has made that has rippling effects across the state and affects every Tennessean, whether they realize it or not. That would be one of my highest priorities if I were elected. The man who held the office that I'm seeking 2 seats ago. His name was Jeremy Durham. He actually um, sponsored and pushed for a law that would prohibit the governor from accepting Medicaid expansion funds without the approval of the entire legislature. So that bill would have to be repealed. That law would have to be repealed right away in order for us to expand Medicaid. And it's really kind of shocking and shameful that someone who held the seat that I'm looking for, that I'm seeking out, is the one who started this whole mess. Excuse me. My other main priority is funding our public schools. Education has been the key that's opened up every opportunity I've had in my life to travel, for work, for study. And so it's crucial. It's crucial that we have a strong public school system. It's crucial that our teachers who have advanced degrees are able to live in the communities that they teach in and work in, because it's Williamson County especially is expensive to live in, and our teachers on average only make $37,000 a year with master's degrees, and that's really despicable. The budget just came out this evening before I was preparing to go live, and the Billy is proposing to once again cut raises that he promised to the teachers. He's cutting those. He's also cutting raises to state employees, but he's decided to give himself a $4,600 raise. He's already a millionaire, but I guess he needs, even more. He's not making enough. So, those state budgets are a moral document as well as a financial document. They show the people of your state what your priorities are and what you care about, and we can see what the Tennessee GOP cares about. They don't care about our teachers. They don't care about us. The budget also keeps, I think, $16 million set aside for his voucher plan, which has already been ruled unconstitutional, as we all know. So instead of giving some of that money to teachers, he's keeping it aside. And so our state is 41st lowest kind of in the country for teacher pay, which is really, really despicable, I think, especially when you consider how much love, especially when we've seen this during the COVID crisis. My kids' teachers were sending emails and doing Zoom calls every day, and what they said to our kids every day was, "I love you." They said that every single day. "I love you. I hope you're doing okay." It really gets me upset because they deserve so much. They were really concerned about keeping life normal for our kids during this crisis. They, missed our kids when they couldn't see them. It's really not fair. Which is why I want to go and work in the legislature, because I want things to be a little bit more fair for everyone. Does anyone have any questions that they want to type into the chat box or anything? I appreciate you all watching. It's really a kind of surreal experience to know that I'm here just sitting in my house talking to myself, but really you're out there listening. I hope you like what I have to say. Let's see. Just a couple other things are that, strong unions, and this is another thing that's going to be coming up in the next election too, why it's important that we all stay involved. The state legislature has passed a constitutional amendment that would make Tennessee a right-to-work state, which, again, the way they phrase these bills is so misleading, just like the constitutional carry, right to work. On the surface, it makes sense. Hey, yeah, everyone should have a right to work, or, we should be able to, seek out employment as we like it. But what these laws really do is weaken unions, which, it weakens the way that unions can negotiate, on behalf of their members, and it makes things easier for the businesses. It allows them to, get away with unsafe conditions, and not paying people the health care that they need, or the salaries that they deserve. Um, you know, Studies show that states that have strong unions have higher wages across the board for everyone, regardless of whether or not you're in a wage. They also have better safety outcomes for dangerous jobs in construction and in the manufacturing sectors. So I'm a huge union supporter. My neighbors are One of my neighbors works for GM, and I helped out by donating to the striking members last fall. Just bringing things to the picket line so they would have snacks and drinks and food and things like that. But my great grandfather was a police officer in Boston, and in 1919, the entire police force went on strike because they wanted higher pay, better working conditions. When they had to stay in police stations for their overnight shifts, it was just filthy, disgusting, rat infested. There was no like healthy environment for them to actually sleep in or anything like that. A lot of the police officers at the time were Irish and Italian immigrants, and so being in the union and being a police officer was a step towards the middle class for them. And they just wanted to get an increase in pay and have some better working conditions. Well, instead of negotiating with the union, the governor fired the entire police force. And so it was, my great grandfather, he landed on his feet, thankfully. But for a lot of people in the city, it was devastating. Some families never recovered from losing that position. It wasn't just a position of, it wasn't just the money. It was a position of pride in the community that those officers lost. It was, respectability. And especially at the time, if you know anything about immigration into Boston during the time, Italians and Irish weren't always welcome. So yeah, that's sort of a legacy, a family legacy that resonates with me now, and that's part of the reason why I support unions. So I would be, I think the constitutional amendment has to be voted on by all Tennesseans, and I'm not sure if it's going to be on the ballot for this election cycle, but it will be coming up, and so that's something important that we all need to be aware of, that the right to work laws are not great for workers here in Tennessee. Let's see what time it is. Well, it's been almost 45 minutes. Well, I guess maybe not, because I was late to join the party. But I feel like I've been yammering on for quite a while. I hope this has given you a sense of who I am. I don't have the answers to everything. I don't claim to. I never will claim to. But I'll show you. This is my dissertation. This is my phone, so you can see. It's almost the width of a cell phone, an iPhone. I know how to do my research. I know how to be prepared. I'm gonna, whatever issues come to the table, you'll be sure that I have done the homework and I will know what I'm talking about. And when I'm considering the issues, I will consider them from every side, and approach things with empathy. That's one of the things I think people would say about me. I do try to understand everyone's perspective on a personal level. So I would carry that into the state legislature and give voice to people who haven't had a voice there before, and hopefully counterbalance some of the harmful policies that have been put out there so far. And I don't think that, the Republicans who want to focus on making, Tennessee a more business-friendly state are necessarily have to be in opposition to people who want the employees to have a great life, because in order to have a healthy economy, you have to have educated and healthy workers. You have to have consumers who have the money to spend at those businesses and buy those products. And so we should be working together instead of at cross purposes. And that's, the message I want to bring to the state legislature as well. So, thank you all for joining me tonight. This was a trial to see how things would go. Hopefully, we'll have some more of these, and I'd love to have some more interactive events as well. You can see my website. You can visit me on my website. That's it. I'm going to put it in the comments here in case you don't know. But check it out. Make sure you're following me on Twitter and Instagram as well. For those of you who are following me on Instagram, you'll know that I post pictures of our kitten there. I haven't put as many. She's our cat pain manager, Bella, and she's a Demo-cat. And so yeah, so there's pics of Bella up there. And thanks. Oh, sorry. I'm sorry. I'm just now seeing these comments. I guess I wasn't scrolling. I'm really sorry about this. So Daniel, what legislation do you think could help prevent what happened to George Floyd from continuing to happen? I watched President Obama's speech yesterday too, and I think there's some very easy, practical steps that we can all take. And I think the mayor of Nashville, John Cooper, has started to do that. Outlawing chokeholds and strangleholds is the first thing to doing that. I would like to see more partnership between the police and community groups. I don't think the police need to have military-style weapons. I know Williamson County, we went to a Touch a Truck event a few years ago, and I was really shocked to see the Williamson County, I think, Sheriff's Office has an armored tank vehicle. and the officer who was helping the kids explore it was standing there in SWAT tactical gear. And I just thought, what sort of situation in Williamson County would this be necessary for? And I asked him, and they'd never used it for anything in the field. All they use it for is to bring it to community events like that. So, we don't need to be spending money on things like that. And they don't need AR-15 rifles. There was a piece in the paper or somewhere a few months ago about how a lot of county sheriff's departments are getting money to buy these military weapons, and some of them have even gone missing in doing the inventory. So the TBI was investigating all of this. And that's, again, when you talk about budgets being a moral document as well as a financial document, that's something that we need to look at as well. I do have family members who are police officers, and so I also feel for the police officers. I think that they have a very difficult job. I think they see at times the worst of humanity, and it's hard to process some of the things they see. I think I would like to see more training on de-escalation techniques, more training on anti-bias, and also more mental health counseling so that they can process some of the events that they have to deal with. So that's where I would start. Joanne, hi Joanne. What are my thoughts on healthcare insurance? Okay, so I think I've explained that pretty well. Hopefully I answered your question, Joanne. Sydney, I haven't seen the Democratic caucus release their priorities for the budget. So I don't know specifically what they've said. I think I've talked a little bit about what I would prioritize, which is education funding. So Pam has recently moved from Texas. I actually lived in Arlington when I was a kid, Pam. Welcome to Tennessee from Texas. What do you consider the biggest issue facing us in our district? That's tough right now. There's so many issues. And Williamson County likes to kind of think of itself as above the fray in some respects because we are sort of sheltered by our financial advantages and our economic advantages. I think COVID-19 is still a huge issue, although it's being overshadowed right now by the protests and things like that. I think our state response to it has not been robust enough. I think we should, I just heard on the radio this afternoon that Tennessee has seen a 75% increase in cases since we started reopening the state. A lot of people, when I go out my family, we're still trying to stay home as much as possible. But when I do go out, I wear my mask. Most people in the stores are not wearing their masks. I think a lot of people think of it as not that big of a deal. If you get it, you'll get over it. Kids, they don't think the kids are going to be affected by it, but we still need to address that issue. We need consistent messaging about how to prevent it. Wearing masks, it shouldn't be a partisan issue. There's been reports of people being yelled at for wearing masks and things like that, and that's just ridiculous. The education funding is huge for Williamson County. Our teachers deserve more money. The growth in our county is part of the problem when it comes to education funding, because the subdivisions that are being built are quickly filling up all of our schools. Most of our Williamson County schools budget goes to buying properties and building new schools. It doesn't actually go to the teachers and the kids in the classrooms. So that's one of the main things we need to start addressing too. And let's see. Oh yeah, Annabeth. Thanks, Ben. I am the real deal. and for plugging that, I appreciate that. Yeah, Annabeth, the racial issues. I don't think there's any quick fix. There's no quick solution. We all have to look at our hearts. We all have to do better. We all have to be better. We all have to be more educated. And looking at the social structures that really, perpetuate the racism in our society. I think I should maybe do a whole other talk on that, because there's a lot to discuss there and to pick apart. Let's see. Thanks, Dad. Hi, Angelique. Oh, thanks for donating, Angelique. I really appreciate it. Yeah, so thanks, everyone. I think I'll wrap it up unless there's any more last questions. This will be available on our website to view later, so you can send your friends that my way and say, hey, check Jen out. She's running. We need to spread the word. My kids are back from their walk. Do you guys want to come say hi real quick? Yeah, it's about to pour, it looks like, out here. So here's Tess. You just wave and say hi.
Hi.
You want to come in?
Move out of the way. I'm famous.
There's Jackson, and there's Bella. And I don't know where Nora is.
Nora's still coming back and Daddy from the walk.
Oh, okay. Okay. Woo. So anyways, thank you all for joining. Here's Bella, our campaign manager. Thank you for your support. I really appreciate it. This campaign is nothing. It's a grassroots, well, it's not nothing. That's not what I meant to say. It's a grassroots campaign. We rely on individual donors and the support from our family and friends and people in our community. So I really appreciate you all being here tonight. Thanks. I'll see you soon. Take care, stay healthy, and be kind to everyone. Thanks.